Who am I without religion? The walls did not fall with a shout. They softened, then dissolved like breath on a mirror. What remained was a question shaped like a doorway. Who am I without all this? Without the hymns and the hierarchy. Without the borrowed certainty and the righteous costume. The ego calls this loss. Spirit calls it unveiling. The Course says identity is the fact of what God created, not the image the ego assembled. So the problem was never behavior. The problem was authorship. Who did I think I was to invent myself and then defend the invention? Religion gave me a script, but the script was not the self. It taught me words about God, but words are not the word. I mistook the map for the country and the finger for the moon. I bowed to symbols and forgot what they symbolized. The Course says, you are as God created you. Not almost, not later, not if. Now. That sentence is a key that unlocks every door. Because if I am as God created me, then nothing I added is necessary. And nothing I subtracted is possible. The holiness I hunted was never absent. The guilt I carried was never real. The self I protected was never me. Autonomy sounded like freedom in the world's tongue. Choose your truth, author your life, be your own light. But the Course unmasks this as the ego's founding fantasy. It says the ego seeks autonomy from God and calls that independence. Yet ideas do not leave their source. How could a wave leave the ocean and still be water? How could a ray leave the sun and still be light? To claim self-authorship is to claim self-severance. And self-severance is not freedom, it is exile. So leaving religion is not rebellion against God. It is release from the God the ego made, the scorekeeper in the sky, the punisher with a ledger, the dispenser of favors for the properly frightened. That idol was a mirror of fear, not a revelation of love. The Course says, God is not symbolic, he is fact. Facts do not require belief to be true. Facts do not tremble when questioned. Facts do not need a temple to stand. When the last hymn fades, what remains is not absence. It is presence without costume. It is stillness that does not begin or end. It is the quiet in which a truer prayer begins. Not the prayer that begs for what already is. The prayer that remembers. Religion can point to this, but it cannot contain it. Creeds can describe it, but description is not knowledge. The Course says, nothing outside you can give you peace. That is the end of idolatry. Not because the outer is evil, but because peace is your nature. Peace was not a reward for belief. Belief was the veil over peace. I asked, who am I without religion? The question frightened the part of me built of definitions. That part survives on labels, roles, and reputations. It needs comparison to exist at all. But truth has no opposite, so comparison cannot touch it. The Course teaches that what is real is changeless. Therefore, what can change is not who I am. The opinions can change. The practices can change. The community can change. But what God knows of me cannot change. When I say I am, and then add a word, I fracture the whole. I am was never meant to be completed. I am completes me. I am is the echo of God's name in the human mouth. To tack on believer, sinner, skeptic, leader, or exile is to dress light in costumes of shadow. The Course gives a simple instruction. Say only this and mean it with no reservations. I am as God created me. That is not hype. It is ontology. Practice it and the scaffolding falls. Practice it and the false autonomy loosens its grip. Practice it and the holy instant opens where conflict used to stand. Autonomy, rightly seen, is not self-rule against heaven. It is self-recognition within heaven. It is the end of bargaining with idols. The end of outsourcing authority to robes, rooms, or reputations. It is the inward bow to what never left. The Course says, the ego asks many questions it cannot answer. That is why it loves religion as argument. Debate keeps the mask alive. Division feeds the identity built on difference. But spirit does not debate. Spirit knows. When knowing arises, arguing feels like carving statues out of fog. There is nothing to win and nothing to lose. There is only to recognize. Leaving the church felt like grief because a character was dying. The one who performed holiness for applause or permission. The one who feared punishment and called it reverence. The one who substituted rule-keeping for intimacy. The funeral ends when I notice the deceased was never alive. I cannot bury what never existed. I can only stop pretending I am it. Then the strange lightness begins. Not euphoria. Unburdening. The stained glass shatters, but light is not injured. The altar crumbles, but gratitude is not homeless. The calendar goes blank, but the holy instant needs no date. Only the truth is true, says the Course, and nothing else matters. In that line lives a whole new world. It is the world without opposite. The world where forgiveness is not a virtue, but a fact. The world where I stop insisting that illusions justify themselves. Who am I without religion? I am what remains when the costumes are burned and the ashes cannot stain me. I am the awareness in which creeds arise and pass. I am the peace that does not ask conditions. I am the light that was searching for itself in windows, and finding none, discovered it was the window. Identity and autonomy finally make sense here. Identity is God's certainty about me. Autonomy is my consent to that certainty. Identity is given. Autonomy is received. The two are one when the argument ends. The Course says, you have no identity apart from your brothers and your Creator. So my freedom is not isolation. My freedom is shared authorship in a mind so vast that all distinctions are harmonies. We rise together because we were never separate. We awaken as one because love does not divide to heal. I walk out of the building. I do not walk out of God. I set down the book. The word keeps speaking. I lay down the name. The name keeps me. And what the world calls losing my religion, the Course calls remembering myself. Not the small self that needs defending. The capital self that needs nothing because it lacks nothing. That is the end of seeking. Not because I have found a better doctrine. Because I have remembered a better fact. God is fact. And I am as God created me. Nothing added. Nothing subtracted. Only revealed. Portrait of a traveler at the lip of an empty cathedral, pockets full of keys that never fit any door. He listens as the last hymn fades and discovers the silence is not vacancy, but voice. No ushers, no sermon, no collection plate, just the ancient announcement spoken without sound. You were never outside, you were never other, you were never less. Exit signs flicker, but he does not leave, he only wakes. And the credits roll on a world that never held him as he steps from the twilight zone into the timeless one, wearing nothing but the truth he cannot lose.